What happens when a wild tiger mother risks everything to leave her cubs on a man's porch? He thought it was over until the system showed up. What happened next turned a quiet cabin into the front line of a fight no one saw coming. They say when a tiger looks at you, you're supposed to freeze. Go still. Don't run, don't scream, just accept your fate. Well, when one looked at me, I didn't freeze. I cursed under my breath, dropped my thermos, and wondered why the hell I ever thought early retirement in the Montana woods was a good idea. Let's rewind. My name's Miles, ex-forest ranger, 59, stubborn as a mule, retired early because I was tired of people and paperwork. I bought a busted-down cabin near the edge of Raven Hollow Preserve. Not because I'm a man of the wild, but because I got sick of HOA meetings and my neighbor's obsession with leaf blowers. Peace and quiet. That was the goal. And for a while, I had it. Quiet mornings, hot coffee, birds louder than my tinnitus. What more could an old man want? Until last Tuesday. It started with smoke. Thick, biting, chemical. Not your usual campfire puff. No, this was the kind of smoke that crawls into your clothes, your lungs, and your gut. I stepped out onto the porch, took one whiff, and muttered, "Well, that's not great. See, east of my cabin is a low canyon. Nothing special unless you know it's home to one of the last Amur tiger dens in North America. Wild, untouched, protected, in theory. But here's the kicker. No protection plan means much when some backwoods genius decides to burn trash in the dry season. One gust of wind and boom, half the canyon's lit up like a damn 4th of July display. I grabbed my keys and my old beat-up utility buggy, not because I wanted to play hero, but because I knew nobody else would show up fast enough. Fire doesn't wait for paperwork in these woods. They deserve better than bureaucratic delays. Half an hour in, I'm hacking through smoke and branches, and that's when I heard it. A sound that made my spine lock up. Not a growl, not a roar, a low, dragging whine, pain, animal pain. I followed the noise and found her. She was massive, striped like thunderclouds, one paw crushed under a burning log, ribs heaving. Her head whipped toward me, eyes full of something I hadn't seen in a long time. Pure, raw trust. And beside her, 2 cubs, barely old enough to stumble, let alone survive this heat. I had no plan, no fire gear, just a shovel, a torn flannel, and way too much adrenaline. So I did what I could. I shoved, I dug, I cursed a little. Okay, a lot, cleanly. My palms blistered and my back screamed, but that log moved. And when it did, she didn't pounce. She didn't snarl. She limped forward, picked up one cub in her mouth, and waited. Waited for me. She looked me dead in the eye. No growling, no threats, just this intense, silent stare, like she was handing me a job, whether I wanted it or not. So I scooped up the second cub, shaking like a busted lawnmower, and followed her. We walked through smoke and ash like some weird little caravan, her in front, me behind, 2 old souls who had no business trusting each other. And yet here we were. We reached my cabin before dawn. She limped up to my porch, set her cub down gently, and then turned to me. One long stare, and just like that, she was gone. Vanished into the tree line. I stood there, barefoot, singed, holding a tiger cub on my front steps like it was the most normal Tuesday morning in America. But nothing about this was normal. Not even close. Let me tell you something real quick. Holding a tiger cub in your arms isn't heartwarming. It's terrifying. It's like cradling a sack of knives wrapped in fur and uncertainty. Their little paws look cute until they flex. Then suddenly you're aware you're made of meat. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of the cub. He was barely breathing, curled up in a pile of blankets and my old army jacket. But because my brain wouldn't shut up. Why me? Why my porch? Why would a wild mother, an actual predator, risk everything just to bring her babies to me? I'm not exactly Dr. Doolittle. I had no formal wildlife training, no rescue gear, not even cell service that didn't involve hiking 2 miles uphill and praying to the signal gods. So I did what any unqualified man with a conscience and a medical kit would do. I tried to keep him alive. The little guy was burning up. Fever, dehydration, you name it. I crushed electrolyte tablets into a bottle, made some kind of sad excuse for Tiger Pedialyte, and dripped it into his mouth with a straw. He barely moved, didn't even twitch when I wrapped him in towels like a sad, oversized burrito. By mid-morning, the media circus arrived. Not the actual media, no, worse. Park officials. 2 rangers I hadn't seen in years. 1 wildlife contractor with enough gadgets to film a low-budget nature documentary, and a guy from State Wildlife Control whose mustache looked like it had more authority than his badge. They didn't knock. Just marched right into my clearing like they owned the place. "Mr. Madison," Mustache Man barked, "we have reports of an unauthorized animal on private property." Yeah. No hello, no good morning, just straight to the paperwork. "Well, he's not exactly throwing a party," I muttered. "He's half dead." They didn't laugh. The tall ranger, Barnes I think his name was, squinted toward the porch. "You're housing a wild tiger?" "Technically, I'm housing a baby who didn't ask for any of this." Another silence, awkward, heavy. Then they started snapping pictures, radioing supervisors, muttering words like relocation, containment, and my personal favorite, liability. You ever watch someone circle a problem with clipboards and regulations instead of rolling up their sleeves? That's what this felt like. 4 grown adults debating my front porch like it was a crime scene. Meanwhile, the cub was whimpering through a fever dream inside. I finally snapped. Not loudly, just one of those deep growling moments where every muscle in your body screams enough. "Look," I said, "if you're here to help, pick up a bottle. If you're here to pose for a report, the road's that way." Barnes narrowed his eyes. "You're interfering with a protected species. And you're interfering with a dying one." That shut them up. They backed off, for now. Said they'd be back in 24 hours with the proper response team, whatever that meant. But the second their tires crunched down the trail, something in me shifted. This wasn't just about a tiger cub anymore. This was about how we treat things we don't understand, about how bureaucracy loves its rules unless they get in the way of real help, about how somehow a mother tiger trusted me more than my own species did. That night, I stayed up again. Sat beside the cub on the porch, listening to the forest breathe around me. Every crack of a branch, every rustle in the leaves, my eyes darted, half hoping, half dreading she might return. And just before sunrise, I heard it. But it wasn't her. It was something worse. At first I thought it was the wind. But wind doesn't crack branches like that. I grabbed the flashlight, stepped outside, and stopped cold. A second cub, right there, on the edge of the tree line, limping, shaking, dragging one paw behind like it weighed 100 pounds. And behind him, nothing. No stripes, no eyes in the dark, no mother. I swear I waited a full minute just scanning the woods, hoping for even the glint of her eyes. But the forest was quiet. Too quiet. She was gone. That's when the realization hit like a cold slap to the face. She had brought both cubs to me, one at a time, through fire, through smoke, through whatever predators or humans might have crossed her path. She'd marched across miles of danger just to drop her babies on my doormat. She wasn't abandoning them. She was choosing me. I carried the second cub inside. He was worse off than his brother. Ribs like wires under his skin, paw raw from burns. I sat there, hands shaking, mixing the last of the oral rehydration powder I had, thinking, what kind of world does a mother tiger look at a human and think, yeah, this guy, this one's got a better shot than I do? By the time the response team returned, both cubs were stable. Barely. I had them resting on heated blankets and wrapped up in more of my clothes than I care to admit. I looked like a survivalist daycare operator. They pulled up in trucks this time, big ones, with logos, cameras, and crates, plastic, cold, empty. "Where's the mother?" asked the same mustached official from before, scribbling on a clipboard. "Not here," I said. "Do you know her whereabouts? If I did, do you think I'd tell you?" He didn't like that. Neither did the camera crew. I didn't care. They moved fast after that. Too fast. One ranger tried to lift the first cub. The moment he did, the little guy panicked, screeched, claws out, pure terror. Not aggression, just fear. Primal, heartbreaking fear. I stepped in. "Easy," I said. "Let me." They paused, reluctantly. I picked him up, slow and careful, murmuring nonsense the way you do with scared kids and scared animals. He calmed, nuzzled under my arm. That was the moment something snapped in one of the rangers, a young woman, barely 30. She watched me, looked at the cub, and whispered to her partner, "He trusts him." And that was it. Everything changed. Instead of dragging them off, they set up a temporary wildlife tent beside my cabin. Medical volunteers showed up. They brought supplies, clean formula, burn ointment, not cages. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't the cold machine I expected either. Because, surprise, when people actually see suffering, they remember how to be human again. Later that week, a local news team ran the story. A former ranger, 2 tiger cubs, and a mother who trusted a man more than the system. It went viral, not for the likes, but because people felt it. And here's the twist. The system didn't get worse after that. It bent. Wildlife funding increased. The park got better surveillance. A new fire barrier was built along the canyon edge. And yeah, they even offered me a job. I said no. But I did agree to one thing, keeping the cubs, at least for now. They needed familiarity, safety, not another relocation to a concrete pen miles away. So I stayed, not as a hero, just as the guy who was there when a mother asked the world for help, and the world, for once, didn't look away. And sometimes when I sit on the porch at night, I hear a sound in the woods, a low breath, a quiet crackle, and I wonder if she still watches from the trees. Because the forest doesn't forget, and neither did she.